everyone. Thank you for joining. Today is our webinar with Corey, a success coach. Corey has a background in the corporate world, and she transitioned into coaching recently and has been running her business for the past year. And she has amazing plans for the new year. We were just chatting about that. And she's one to watch. So today we're talking about how to get confidence in sales, which is a really tricky topic for a lot of us, what's what sustains us. So I think it's a very important topic. So it's over to you, Corey.
Thank you, Dahlia. Yeah, so hello everyone. Really excited to be here this evening and talking to you about sales. I know selling, selling is a topic that I'm particularly passionate about because I know how often people struggle and how important it is to business. And I also know that it doesn't have to be scary or awkward or hard. So that's why I like teaching about that. Sales. There we go. So I'll begin by introducing myself. My name is Corey Javid. Like Dahlia said, I'm a success coach and a business mentor for other mothers who have online businesses. And I help women define their vision of success and achieve it on their terms and do so whilst thriving. So I'll give you a quick potted history about how I got into success coaching. So I spent 10 years in a huge global investment bank, and it was about as dry as it sounds. And while I was there, I was a success coach there and a trainer and a mentor. And I learned a huge amount in that time. But one of the things that I realized over the years there was that I wasn't as excited about helping executives achieve the company's vision of success. There was a little bit of disconnect there for me. So last year, I took the leap and leveraged those 10 years of experience and started my own success coaching practice. And I was determined to help other mothers like myself to define and achieve their vision of success, not some company's vision of success. I decided when I was building my business that I wanted to have something that was more fulfilling than my corporate role, was more flexible, and was really profitable, which might seem like a big ask. But here we are. I've managed to create that for myself, and now I'm massively passionate about helping other women create exactly the same. Because I know that when we thrive as women, as mothers, as business owners, then our businesses thrive, and so do our families. And that, to me, is like a beautiful thing. So that's a quick, brief history of how I ended up where I am today. And I'm also starting at that place in the story because of the first thing that I learned when I set out on my private coaching journey. So I spoke to numerous women with online businesses to start to get a feel for the specific areas they might need help in. And one theme cropped up time and time again. And it was, you can probably guess, sales. I was amazed that this was such a common theme. Here were countless talented, inspiring, amazing women, and they were all telling me that the thing that they were struggling with in business was selling. I knew that this was something that I could help them with, and I knew that sales were really important. So I was hugely motivated to find a way to help make sales a more natural process for them and something that was easier for these women. So I set about taking everything that I'd learned from sales in the corporate space and selling in my own business, and everything that I've learned from a ton of books that I've read on the subject and training that I've done. And I started structuring all of that sales knowledge and expertise into a framework tailored specifically to help women who are like me with their online businesses and to be able to sell from a place of confidence and in a way that feels like good and not sleazy or pushy, because I think that's what we want to all avoid, right? So that leads me on to the topic of today's webinar. So Dahlia, if you could go to the next slide, please, which is getting confident at asking for the sale. So today I'm going to cover your perception of sales and why it's really important. the lies we tell ourselves about sales and selling, about asking for the sale in person and how you can get confident doing that, and then asking for the sale online because that has its own nuances. So let's dig in. Can we go to the next slide? So if you're watching this, let me know if this is you. I'm not great at selling myself. I cringe when I try to plug my business. I dread sales conversations. I'm worried they won't see the value in what I'm selling. These are all things that I was hearing from my clients. So if the answer is yes, that you resonate with any of these phrases or any of these concepts or ideas, then you're in the right place, because we're going to be talking about how you can address those feelings and get more comfortable with selling. And also know that you're in good company, because this is something that so many people struggle with. So you're not actually on your own. It's not a unique problem, okay? So there's an important point that we have to address first. If we could go to the next slide. You have to get comfortable with selling. If you have your own business, this is non-negotiable. Why? Well, quite simply, without sales, you have no business. But notice that I said that you need to get comfortable with selling here. And I didn't say good at selling, because I chose that language very intentionally, because I know that actually there's no point in me teaching you lots of different sales techniques as such. That sure, there might be some that work really well for you, but really the quickest way for you to get better at selling is not by learning some techniques, but by getting comfortable with the actual act of asking for a sale and the idea of selling. When you're comfortable and confident in that situation, then selling actually just comes much more easily. So it's less of an uphill struggle. So next slide. There's some great news. And the really great news is I can totally help you get confident at selling. So you don't have to keep stressing about sales. Okay, let's go to the next slide and dig straight into how we're going to get over that. So we're going to start today, and the thing that we're covering first is your perception of sales. This is the most fundamental piece, or the first step, if you will, of the path to sales confidence. Chances are, if you're anything like the majority of my clients who come to me for help with sales, then your perception of sales and selling could do with some adjustment. So why do I start with your perception of sales? Well, it's the foundation, or the first building block on which we can create your self-confidence in sales. So it's the piece I always start with my clients. If we didn't address this piece first, then the rest of the work we would do would be pointless, because you'd be on like a rocky foundation and you'd be approaching it from the wrong angle. So this slide here simply shows you the process that I use with my clients. As you can see, we start with perception of sales, and we work through things like your money mindset, reconnecting to your why or your purpose, making space to sell in your life and your business, your unique sales strategy, and sales skills that are targeted to your natural inclinations and leanings and your business. So that's the process that I use to get you to selling superstar, and it all starts with your perception of sales. That's why we're focusing on that right now. So if we could go to the next slide, please. It's time to flip your perception of sales on its head, okay? When you're worried about selling, asking for the sale, you're worried about how you are being perceived. You're worrying about the impression you're making, about being judged, about coming across all salesy and sleazy and pushy. And everyone hates that salesperson, right? That kind of, there's a stereotype, isn't there, of the car salesman or the double glazing salesman that's really pushing you when you don't actually want the thing that they're trying to sell. So when you are approaching a sales conversation or a selling situation, focusing on yourself, then you're also probably worrying about making the sale, needing the money, worrying what will happen if you don't make the sale, where the next sale is coming from. So if we go to the next slide, it isn't about you. So the first problem with the perception of sales is that you're making it all about you. You're worried about how you will look, about if you will make the sale. And if we go to the next slide, it's about them. So selling, in fact, is about the client or the customer. It's about how you might be able to help them. And notice that I said how sell something to. So the focus in any sales activity should not be about making the sale or worrying about how you're being perceived. It should be quite simply about figuring out if you're the right person to help the other person. That's it, simple as that. When you can make that shift, it can actually be really powerful because it gets you out of your head and back into the kind of conversation or the situation at hand. So if we go to the next slide, and we can talk about when you shift your focus. When you shift your focus, you become really intent on listening because you're making it about them and not you. Instead of worrying about talking about what exactly you're going to say. And you make it about them and you take the pressure off of you and the situation. Selling then goes from being something awkward, salesy thing to being about helping somebody. It's as simple as that. And instead of looking for an inroad to launch your practice little pitch, which, let's be honest, is probably going to make you uncomfortable saying it anyway, then you can listen. What are they struggling with? How could you help them? What's their desired end goal or ultimate result? And doesn't that sound better already? If you're sitting there listening to this, the idea of actually making it about them and just listening to them and finding a way to help them, it takes the pressure off you and takes the pressure off the situation. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. The other thing to remember is that good sales, and we're talking only about good sales here today, right? Not anything pushy or sleazy or gross. Good sales are an even exchange. So that's the other way that you can shift your focus, is by realizing that by asking for the sale, all you're really doing, if you're approaching it from the right angle, is offering to help someone with their problem or improve their life or business in some way. That's it. You're just making an offer. And that's a nicer way of thinking of it than pushing something on somebody. So rather than saying, buy my thing, you're saying, here's what I have, here's how I think it could help you. That's it. You know, it's less pressured. So when you remember in any sales conversation or activity that you have something of value that you're offering, it becomes easier to feel okay about asking for money in exchange because it feels like an even exchange. So you have to really remember your own value to make that feel like an even exchange, and then you feel like you're approaching it from the right place. Okay, so let's look at a really basic example because it just helps to kind of drive this point home. Let's say you're making a cup of tea, you realise you need some milk. You go to the corner shop, you buy some milk, you walk home. What just happened? Well, of course, a sale. Did it feel awkward? No. Did it feel salesy or pushy? No, because you needed the milk. And the shopkeeper helped you with your problem and you happily paid him or her in exchange. So I know that's a really basic example, but it just really helps. So sometimes people get really afraid of asking for money. And when you realize that you're helping somebody and you're giving them something that they need or they want, then it doesn't have to feel bad in asking for money in exchange. Okay, so the same thing applies to anything that you sell. You could be selling illustrations or transformative life coaching or copywriting or yoga mats. It doesn't really matter whether it's a product or a service, whether it's a low ticket offer or high cost item. All sales, if they're the good kind of sales, are about you seeing if you can help somebody with a problem or fulfill a need or desire that they have. So asking to sell is simply you offering the opportunity for you to work together in that way. That's it. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So the next thing to remember is that good sales are relationships. So that's the other key thing I would really like you to take away from this teaching. The good kind are based on relationships. If you want sales conversations to go well, to serve your clients well, to have a tribe of loyal followers and brand advocates, then you should be interested in building relationships because those are the foundations of really good sales and continued goodwill in your business. So instead of seeing a sales conversation as an opportunity to make a sale, see it as an opportunity to build a relationship further. And again, that takes the pressure off. This approach will really help with that listening that's so key that we were talking about just a second ago. When you approach sales as a relationship, it can feel a lot easier when somebody actually says no. Just because somebody said no to your offer now doesn't mean that it's not going to be a yes in the future. Or they might send another client your way and actually recommend you to somebody. So we've talked about some of the ways that you can shift your perception of sales. I'd like to look at some of the lies we've been telling ourselves about sales and see if we can dig into the truth behind those lies. Okay, so lie number one. Next slide, please. So if you're watching this, I'd be really interested to know if you agree with this. People are either born salespeople or they're not. I hear this one again and again from clients who are struggling with sales confidence, and they say to me, I'm just not a born salesperson, or I'm just not that extroverted type, or it just doesn't come naturally to me. Well, the thing is, now that you know that sales are not about you and they are about their potential client, to listening to them, to building rapport with them, and seeing if you're a good fit working together, can you see that you don't need any sort of special innate skills? You just need to show up, be interested in the other person, and come from a genuine place wanting to help. That's not actually that difficult. And this approach alone is far more effective than learning any pushy or salesy tactics. So if we go to the next slide, you can see the flip side of this is the truth is that anyone can get good at selling. If you can gain confidence in the value that you have to offer, if you can hone your listening skills, if you can stay connected to your why or your purpose, and if you can address your relationship with money, because quite often that underlies some of our discomfort around selling, all of these things will help you to get better at selling. And these are all learnable skills. So they're not something that's dictated from birth. You don't have to be born a salesperson. You can learn to be a person who is good at selling in your business in a way that feels authentic and genuine and from a really good place. So hopefully that's some good news for you. Okay, let's look at the next slide. Asking for the sale is awkward or uncomfortable. Now that you know that all you're doing is offering the other person an opportunity for you to help them or to address one of their desires or wants, it takes the pressure off, right? There's actually nothing then to feel uncomfortable about, hopefully. So let's look at the flip side of this instead with the next slide. This is truth number 2. So selling is actually only awkward if you make it awkward. So if you're not listening to your potential client, you're only looking for your opportunity to plug your business or launch into your pitch, or you're so fixated on closing the sale that your desperation comes across, of course your sales conversations are going to feel awkward. If you remember to focus on them, on the potential client or customer, and listen to their problems, if you come from a place of service, i.e. a genuine desire to help, then it won't be awkward, okay? So that's a really key takeaway here. So selling is only awkward if you make it awkward. So if you've been finding that either having a sales conversation in person or writing sales copy is uncomfortable or awkward, have a think about it. See if you can reconnect to the feeling of trying to help somebody and seeing the end goal of either that person being happy with the thing that you gave them or the transformation that you helped facilitate, and then approach it from that place. Then it will really help you. Okay, so slide number 3, please. Sorry, did you say something, Dahlia? I thought I heard you say something. Don't worry. Okay. So line number 3 is selling could push someone into something they'll regret. So I've heard this from my clients before, that they're worried that they're going to sell something to somebody and then afterwards, down the line, that person's going to regret it. But now that you can approach sales from a place of building relationships and genuine connections, you can see that you aren't really pushing somebody into something. Also, you need to give your prospective clients a little bit more credit. They're big grown-ups, they have brains, they can make their own purchase decisions. If you aren't being pushy, then you don't need to worry about them having to it. Okay, so let's look at the side of this. Okay, selling is based on relationships. When you base your sales approach on relationship building, all that's happening is a conversation about whether you might be a good fit and an opportunity to build more rapport and trust, even if it takes time. So when you come from this angle, you aren't using any tricks or tactics, so you don't have to worry about somebody regretting their decision. Okay. Next, I want to talk about what you can do before and during an in-person sales conversation to get more confident at asking for the sale. And then after that, we're going to talk about asking for the sale online, because that has its own nuances. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, asking for the sale in person. There's 4 things to remember here. So we're talking here specifically about sales conversations. So depending on your line of business, this could be like a discovery call or even a cold call or a face-to-face meeting to discuss a pitch. And this applies to any of those sorts of situations. So building on what we already discussed, there's 4 key things that I want you to get to do asking for the sale. So number 1 is set an intention. Before you hop on that call or go into that meeting, go somewhere if you can for just 2 minutes. Could be in your car outside, could be in a toilet cubicle somewhere, just anywhere you can have just 2 minutes on your own, and have a quick pause and take a deep breath or 2 and set an intention for how you want the conversation to go. So just, and how you want to be. So perhaps I want to feel relaxed and confident. I want to be able to communicate my value clearly. Just set that intention ahead of time. And by this, I don't mean an intention to close the sale, because that's going to come across then as that's like feeling of desperation in the conversation. But something more along the lines of, I intend to show up, to listen, to be confident in my value, and determine if this is a mutually beneficial opportunity, something like that. This just really helps you get in the right frame of mind ahead of time. Just taking those 2 minutes can make a massive difference. Okay, so number 2 is to get out of your head. And this one can be hard, but some practice makes perfect on this one. So setting the intention beforehand will help with that, but also getting good at noticing. And this is the thing that might take a little bit of practice. When your thoughts drift off internally to all of those worries or doubts that we talked about earlier, if you notice this happening, try and snap your attention back to the present moment, to what the prospective client is telling you. Because if you are too inside your head, then you're not really listening to your client, and then you can't have a really valuable sales conversation. Okay. So number 3 is to focus on helping or serving. And again, this helps with your active listening. So ask questions which will help you understand the other person, to understand the problem or the need that you might be able to help them with, and also what their ultimate goals are. What are they really after? So when you understand this, then you can use that information to reflect back to them what you've heard, and they feel listened to and understood. And that right there is the start of your relationship, because that's a really important thing, is for them to feel listened to, heard, and understood. And you've successfully made it about them and not about you. And lastly, be comfortable with the pause. And the pause there for dramatic effect. When you have listened and understood and then made your offer, use this understanding to frame your offer in a way that directly speaks to prospective clients or problems. Then get comfortable with the pause. So you've made the offer, there will be a pause. And this is where so many people lose their nerve, and all that good work that led up to that point goes out the window. You've made an offer, you hear a pause in return. It's natural to feel like the pause is negative or awkward thing, and that you might feel that it's going on for longer than actually it is in reality, because that can be a little bit of a tense or nervous situation. But what's really happening here is that the other person is taking time to consider, simple as that. They're processing the information that you just told them about the offer. So give them that space. Bite your tongue. Don't rush in and fill the gap, because that's what I see people do so often. When that happens, when you rush in and you start adding information about how great your product is, then that can overload them. Or you might be worried that they're balking at the price that you just told them, in which case you rush in to start negotiating or start reducing your prices before they've even voiced some kind of monetary objection, all of which will smack of desperation. And you can lose the sale right there in that minute. and that might have otherwise happened, led quite naturally and quite nicely into a sale if you got comfortable with the pause. So get used to the pause, embrace the pause, and respect the other person's need for that tiny bit of space and time. Okay, so hopefully that gives you 4 fairly simple things that you can do next time you go into a sales conversation. And it will make it much easier for you to ask for the sale. And because there's only 4, they should be quite easy to remember. Okay, so we go to the next slide. This is our last topic, which is asking for the sale online. So of course, online is a little bit different because you're sometimes, depending on how you're selling, playing a bit of a longer game. It can take longer to get you to know your prospective clients online, and sometimes communication can be one-sided. So either you're putting out sales copy in the form of written text, or you're doing like a live video, but in which case it can be less interactive. So online sales is and of itself a very large topic. So I'm only going to focus today on 2 things that you can do to make it easier for you straight away. So I'm a huge advocate for building an engaged online audience, not just an online audience. I think if you've got 10,000 followers and none of them are very engaged with you, then that's kind of a worthless following. I'm all for building a really engaged online audience. So with that said, with regards to being comfortable for asking for the sale online, I've noticed a couple of traps that my clients have been falling into before they came to me for help. So number 1 is start asking for the sale often enough. I usually say a good rule of thumb is to be aiming for a ratio of 4 pieces of non-sales content to 1 piece of sales content. So depending on what type of content that you're pushing out online, that could be anything from a very short post to a long post or a blog post or a video, anything like that. But sort of 4 value pieces to 1 sales piece is a good ratio as a general rule of thumb. So if you are doing some kind of promotion, then of course there's quite often like a, say for example, a 2-week window when you might be selling every day, and that's fine as well. But in the general scheme of things, you should be going for that 4 to 1 ratio. Okay, I find that many people who are uncomfortable with selling simply aren't selling often enough. So they set up a shop or other online means to get paid, but they don't regularly let people know in their content what they have to offer, why it's relevant to the people that follow them, and how they can contact them to talk about working together or book in a sales conversation or actually make the sale or have the transaction. So the point with this is twofold. 1 is to be getting your offer out often enough, but also to increase your confidence at asking for the sale, because the more that you do it, the more comfortable it becomes. So if you're selling something online, I would like to invite you to start asking for the sale more often, see how that goes. So number 2 is know your audience. So with online sales, it is of course different because you don't have that in-person face-to-face meeting, and so you can't ask them questions as easily and really dig into where they need help and whether or not you can help them. So with online sales, to get comfortable in asking for the sale, use every opportunity available to you to find out more about your audience so that you know what makes them tick, what their shared struggles or problems are, and what their ultimate goals are. When you know and understand this, then you can come from a place of service and help that we discussed earlier, and you can feel confident that you're offering something of value to them because your thing, whatever that may be, addressed one particular problem or need of theirs, and you can be confident in that value when you know what their needs or problems are. And again, this is about making it about them and not about you. So you should frame all of your sales posts or online sales copy through the lens of what is important to your potential clients. Why is it relevant to them? Why will it help them, and how? And then what will their life be like at the end of interacting with you or buying their thing from you? Okay, so hopefully that's given you 2 key pointers of things that you can be doing straight away online, and that is to start asking for the sale more often, because chances are you're not asking often enough, and also make sure you're asking really directly and not in a kind of vague and woolly way. And the other thing is really know your audience so that your sales copy can really speak directly to them, and even use their language. That can be a really key way of making sure that your sales copy is really connecting with your ideal clients. Okay, so if we go to the next slide. So just a quick recap, we have been talking about how to get comfortable in asking for the sale today, and we've talked about your perception of sales, the lies we tell ourselves about sales, and actually the truth, which is the flip side of each of those. Asking for the sale in person, and 4 things that you can remember next time you need to do that, and 2 things that you can be doing to be more comfortable in asking for the sale online. Okay, so hopefully we flipped your thinking as well in there about sales. Hopefully you're going to be approaching it from this new angle, and hopefully I've given you some things to take away and start implementing in your business to help you get more comfortable and confident at making sales so you can start making more money. Okay, and the next slide, please. So if you would like to find out more about working with me, then I would invite you to go to bit.ly/discover Corrie. We could book a quick call to talk to each other about what working together might be like. So I help my clients with sales confidence. I have a 6-week sales confidence coaching program. We go from stressed about selling right to selling superstar by the end of those 6 weeks. So if that's something that you'd be interested in having some help and some coaching with, then I would love to hear from you. And I also do social media intensives, and I have my 6-month signature one-to-one coaching practice where we cover all of those things, so social media, sales confidence, and also simplicity, because I'm all about simplicity, because we are parents with businesses. We need things to be simple and straightforward, right? We need our business to work for us and not the other way around. And I use my signature framework, which is the idea of building a flexible, fulfilling and profitable business, because I made that for myself and that's what I want for all of my clients. So if you would like help with any of those things, then I would love it if we could hop on a call and talk about working together. And if we go to the next slide, I just want to say thank you. So thank you for watching this webinar. I hope it has been useful to you. I hope you've been able to take away some tips from today and change your perception of sales and have some action steps that you can take to start getting more confident with asking for the sale. If you want to find me online, you can email me. My address is there. I've got my website address, and you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook, and I have a Facebook group as well. So if that is everything, I presume we won't have any, or do we have any questions online? If you have any questions, do let me know.
Thank you so much for it. That was so informative, and I really love the way you simplified it all and just, you know, really made me think about sales in a different way.
I'm so glad.
And especially I love the part where you were talking about the 4-to-1 ratio on Instagram or social media. I thought that was
that's something that people often don't think about, because, and especially because of the algorithms on social media. Because you're putting something out once or twice a week doesn't mean that everybody in your audience is seeing it that often. So, you know, you need to be doing it regularly.
Does the algorithm perceive things like blog posts as, you know, as sales, or is it only when you're posting?
Not as sales, but I know that, for example, the Facebook algorithm doesn't like things, or doesn't favor things that lead you outside of Facebook as much as it would something that keeps you inside of Facebook. So if I were to post my event on Facebook, but it leads you to Eventbrite, then the algorithm doesn't like that. It doesn't like it as much. Yeah, it doesn't treat it as favorably as it might, say, a Facebook event. Yeah. Oh, I see. That's really interesting. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you to those of you watching. And and just I hope it encourages people also to connect, because Corrie and I met at a networking event. So I think it's really good to always connect with people in real life and not just on social media, because you learn so much from each other, and that's what it's all about. And I'm always amenable to just a non sort of working together conversation, just a connection call as well. So if anybody's interested in that too, then do reach out to me, because I just like meeting other online entrepreneurs. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Corrie, for your time, and have a wonderful week. Bye.
Thank you so much for your amazing webinar and presentation. And thank
My
you
absolute
everyone
pleasure.
for watching.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.